About 5, 6 years ago or so, the village of Whitefish Bay formed a historic preservation commission. I had the good fortune of being appointed to the commission, in its inception, and it was kind of a daunting task. As we began laying down procedures and things like that, it became real evident that our charge, of course, was to preserve the history of Whitefish Bay as much as we could. That meant learning about the history of Whitefish Bay as well as being able to communicate that history, and then tying the history of Whitefish Bay to the historic sites within the village. Now, I've been aware of the Mimi bird collection, but I certainly wasn't familiar with it. I stumbled across it back, I think I was doing a little research probably a decade or so earlier than that on my own house, and I found some pretty interesting information. At that time, the old library, I think it just sat out on the shelf someplace, and before the collection was nicely rearranged, brand new binders, lock and key, which really helps it, because even back 10 years ago, I had observed that there were some pages missing, and you wonder, well, what was on those pages, what disappeared. Over this last 6 years or so, I've gotten pretty familiar with the collection. I mentioned to the bird family that I think I've gotten to know Mimi pretty well, even though I've never met her in person. And I've spent an incredible amount of time going through various volumes, and the depth of information, the breadth of information included is just outstanding. And very communities that think have that type of information available. It's been a very big asset to the Historic Preservation Commission. It's allowed us to find, it's typical, we'll look for, an old house that, just kind of cries out to us, well, what can you tell us about this house? She tells us about this house. The information is there. And not only does she tell us about the house, it's the people that, the first 2 volumes, I think, are just, the town of Milwaukee, the early settlers of the town of Milwaukee, and she's taken the care of going through and providing biography of those people and family trees and everything. It's just an incredible resource. She's got a volume on homes that previously existed in the village and have disappeared, which, where would you get that information if Mimi hadn't gone through that effort to accumulate that information? Using the volumes, however, gets frustrating. Had Mimi created those volumes today, it would all been computerized. You'd be able to get on a terminal someplace, put the word, it would pop up. There are times when I've been in there and looking for a specific house and have to look at 6, 7 different volumes trying to find it. I might find, okay, I've got information on the house here. I don't realize that in volume 2, perhaps, there's a biography of the family. So it's not a little frustrating. And during that process, it became real evident, wouldn't it be nice if the process was digitized, if all the work was digitized? I talked to some of the folks in the research staff here, the reference staff, and they said, geez, as Linda has indicated, they get calls all the time. They're sitting mere feet away from the collection, but they might get a call from California, somebody who had relatives living here in Whitefish Bay, and, what can you tell me about Grandpa Burke? Live someplace in Zilker or something. Well, that information's there someplace, but how do you find it without exhaustive search? So I've had the opportunity, since it's been digitized now, to get online several times to do searches that way. The unfortunate part is it doesn't give me an excuse to come visit the library as often as I used to. But it's an incredible resource. Also, when I was working on putting together the book, I had the good fortune the reference staff there allowed me to take volumes home at a time, so I was able to take volumes home and scan particular photographs, get high-resolution copies. A lot of the photographs that are in the Whitefish Bay book came directly out of the Mimi bird files. So it's an incredible resource. Now it's gotten even more valuable. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Mimi tried, she approaches with a pretty broad spectrum. It's not just Whitefish Bay. She started with the town of Milwaukee, which now encompasses Glendale, River Hills, and Fox Point, and Lake Bayside and stuff. And she's got volumes that are specifically devoted to those communities. I would guess that most of the people in those communities don't even realize that it exists. And perhaps not even the libraries realize that it exists. And now that it's been digitized, people will be able to find that information online. Before long, the way the world goes these days, it'll be available by Google searches, I'm sure, or so that the walls and the locked doors on that collection are now open to the world. So very much appreciate all the efforts that went into this, and as I've mentioned to the Bird family, this would have happened with a very generous donation, so thank you very, very much. I want to make just one final note. You may see me disappear early. I've got my 50th grade school reunion. So I may not be able to stay during all of this, but thank you very, very much for the opportunity.
Just something really quick about Tom. It was the second week I was here at my new job. Tom came in and said, hey, there's this mini bird collection over here that needs to be scanned and digitized, and how would you like to work on this project?
And you didn't say no, which is good.
So it was a good way for me to meet Tom, get to know Tom, and 2 years later the project's finally done. So thank you so much. And I know I also forgot to thank the Garden Club. The Garden Club made a donation to the project as well, and he was very active in the Garden Club as well. So I just wanted to make sure to include that. So now a few words from Lisa McGovern, our Library Board President.
Thank you, Linda. On behalf of the Whitefish Bay Library Board, I want to thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you this afternoon to pay tribute to Mimi Bird, her amazing gift, and the efforts of so many to preserve this collection for future generations. Today's event celebrates passion and community. This collection and Mimi Bird's work represents more than just a history of our village and of the North Shore. It represents passion to preserve what has come before and to inform those who follow. The care taken by the collector is obvious. Whether the way the themes are organized, the photos taken, or one of my favorites, the way the margins appear as handwritten notes, giving insights to building records or further detail in future readers in mind. As the president of the Library Board, I have the honor of speaking to all of you today. But this digitization project was the work of a community of family members, individuals, organizations, library staff and supporters, and groups and dedicated leaders. It has been years in the making, and for all of that hard work and effort, I want to say thank you on behalf of the Library Board. Having this collection available online not only preserves the original documents, it allows immediate, ongoing, and remote access. Mimi Bird's work and the effort that has gone into preserving her collection will enable our library to better preserve and share this work with those who strive to connect with their past and with the past of this community. As I close, I'd like to reiterate our library's mission statement: to be a cornerstone of the community by supporting informed citizenry, promoting a love of learning, and providing easy access to ideas, information, and resources for patrons of all ages. The digitization of the Mimi Bird collection squarely and beautifully supports that, and I thank all of those whose passion for it so.
When I was recording history, Whitefish Bay Library Friends Group. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here to celebrate Mimi Bird and her wonderful contributions to the preservation of Whitefish Bay Library. And I did have the pleasure of knowing Mimi Bird over many years as a very warm acquaintance, and look forward to seeing her always in the library and at meetings of an organization we both belong to. So I'm especially happy to be here today. Friends of the Library was able to underwrite tonight's event, for which I'm glad. Our group especially appreciates the bird gift that made it possible to digitize Mimi's historical collection so the library may offer it to the public online as well as here in the library building. I've been asked to talk a little bit about Friends, which is always a pleasure for me also. Our goal is to support the library by providing financial and volunteer support of the library's mission. To do this, we maintain an active group of member volunteers, and we raise funds through our used book sales. Our fall sale is coming up November 5th from 10 to 3 in the library basement, That's a thought, and I hope you'll come. We have a great collection of used books at excellent prices. If any one of you would like to join Friends, our membership applications may be found in the lobby. In the meantime, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Kathy. I kind of think of the Friends as my angels because they're always tirelessly here every week doing volunteer work and raising money for the library, so very much appreciate it. And H Russel Zimmerman, if you could come up and say a few words about using the collection in your work.
I first came across Mimi Bird when I was doing research for my book on the history of River Hills. And the village center of River Hills had almost nothing and had to really turn over every rock in the territory. And this was like a gold mine. And when I started talking to Mimi Bird, I realized that I'd come across one of these rare types of people that belongs to this exclusive club of amateurs who devote great blocks of time and energy and mainly passion, and I keep hearing that word, to do a project which in the end sometimes has as much information and quality as that produced by people who are specially trained to do that kind of work. Because they have so many different things to do, you focus on these things very tightly. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me when I'm thinking, I've really found a gem here. She's one of this exclusive club. Then I looked in the mirror and I thought, you know what? I'm sort of that way too. I came up from zero as an amateur. When I first got interested in architectural history, I lived in rooming houses on Prospect Avenue as a starving art student, and I ended up knowing most of the houses on Prospect. And all of a sudden they started tearing down my memories, and I really got mad, and I ended up at the Milwaukee Journal fourth floor newsroom, and I marched up to Bill Manley's desk, the editor of the home section, and I said, "Are you nuts? They're tearing down the Valentine Blatz mansion, and you guys haven't put an inch in the paper about it." And he calmly replied, "Well, we didn't know about it. What do you know about it?" So I sat down and told him what I knew, and he ended up quoting me in a story that he published in the paper. This led to 3 more stories, and finally, credit where credit is due, my mother-in-law, who graduated from Milwaukee Downer, Phi Beta Kappa, and valedictorian of her class, and was a good creative writer herself. She said the same thing I said to Manley. "Are you nuts? Giving away your knowledge? You should write those stories and get paid for them." So I went back to Manley and I suggested a series in the Milwaukee Journal on historic houses, and he said, "Prepare 2 manuscripts and I'll evaluate them." So I submitted them. He gave me a phone call and said, "You're on. I want 1 story every month." And that started a 20-year run from 1967 to 1987. And I had an editor cracking the whip on me all the time. But I thought, what have I gotten myself into? I didn't take a journalism class. I didn't take a creative writing class. Why am I doing this? But there again, it's that passion like Mimi had. And the passion was nobody was telling the stories. And I had to tell them. And if I didn't have enough on my plate, Mayor F.D. Kukuk of Wauwatosa, where I lived at the time, came to me and said, "We're starting up a landmark commission and we'd like you to be the chairman." And I thought, here we go again, it's that passion. If anybody's going to do this job, maybe it should be me. So when I accepted, I thought again, wait a minute, I didn't even know what Robert's Rules of Orders were, and I knew nothing about City Hall politics, but still, it was the passion. I said, I'll do it. So I served 7 years. And if that wasn't enough, then 4 architects came to me and said, so a little bit later, "We want to start a Wisconsin Architectural Archive, and we would like you to be the first curator." And, it's a slippery slope again. I thought, wait a minute. I don't know anything about library science. I don't know anything about architectural archives. And as I found out, there was only 1 architectural archive in the United States at that time. It was in Minneapolis, the University of Minnesota. So I bit the bullet and got into that one too. it's always this passion for them, you know. I've taken 19,000 cover slides myself, and I've used them in my books, but I haven't come near taking full advantage of these things. And so when I talked to Mimi, I thought, you know what? We're two birds of a feather, and it's a wonderful club, and I'm glad I was in that club. Another one you might know, Herman Runge, who spent 7 years collecting information on Great Lakes steam and sailing vessels. He documented like 10,000 boats. He traveled to all the ports in the Great Lakes and talked to harbor masters and took photos. He spent 7 years of his life to do this, and now it's the cornerstone of the Wisconsin Marine Historical Society. So I'd just like to conclude by saying I am glad to be in the same club as these people, and especially in New York.
Make some family remarks.
I'd like to think Mimi's here. She's not. But if she were, she'd be incredibly delighted to see all of her friends and all these people here who are so interested in what she did. And she'd be very pleased about that. But I think more so she'd be gratified with the combined effort of so many people that achieved what she, I'm going to say, worked on for so many years. But I'm sure she would say she did not work on this. There was no labor involved because Mr. Zimmerman said she had a passion inexplicably for history. And so I don't think she worked a day in her life on any of this. Joseph Conrad, a philosopher, said, if you find your bliss in life, life's going to be very nice. And she did find her bliss. Day after day, year after year, quietly, but in great joy, a thirst that most of us don't find with the effort that she had. She loved the Bay, having lived here all of her life. Loved the North Shore. She would be extremely gratified to know that what she did do here has now been memorialized, and those of us who are still here, and those of us who are not yet here, and she'd be extremely proud and happy, but more importantly, she'd be gratified for all those people that were engaged in this effort. Example, Mary McIntyre, the lady that transported the volumes to
Across, yeah.
You did that. Now that's just an example. Carrying all this stuff in a truck till across they had it reproduced, back again, then back, and then back. It was all the people that did the digital or the digital work, all of these people. So I'm sure she'd say I had a nice role in this, but everybody else who did this contributed far more than I did. On behalf of the family, of course, we're so pleased and proud and happy all of you folks are here.
It wouldn't be the same without you.
My name is Carter Young, and I'm Mimi's brother. And her name is Miriam Imogene Young Fehring. So we have a connection. John called me, I was on a business trip out Greensboro, North Carolina, and told me that Mimi had passed on that morning. And so I hung up the phone with this chat briefly, and I had a update, of course, and I put myself together, and I got down later on that afternoon. I got down to Greensboro Airport, and I flew back to Philadelphia, where I lived, and just outside of Philly. And in my briefcase was a ticket to come out here to Whitefish Bay the following calling Monday, Tuesday to see if you need John. So that had to be the ticket that I used to come up to the memorial service that we put together a couple of days later. And in that service, John had put together a local funeral home, and we expected quite a large crowd, so he got a hold of 2 halls, pretty sizable halls, and we were 5 or 6 people standing around, and nobody actually showed up for a while, and about an hour went by, and maybe a little longer than that. And John decided, you know, it's going to be a small crowd at the service, so I think what we'll do is we'll cancel one of the rooms. So we did, he canceled one of the halls. And again, hardly anybody showed up. At about 10 after 5, the doors opened up, and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people came through those doors. The reason what happened was that the Walking Journal put out a 3-column obituary. Notice on Mimi, and a lot of people saw that, called friends, and everybody came down. It was a very wonderful welcome sight to have that happen, unfortunately as it was. It was still a nice tribute, a very nice tribute to Mimi. But I'd like to say, this moment I regard as this is the real tribute to Mimi and her work back here. 20 volumes is I'm sorry, 39 volumes in 20 years is a couple of volumes a year. I can't imagine the perseverance of going out, you know, every day, every other day, whatever, all over the city, all over all these surrounding cities, and putting together her weekly, daily work, and making copious notes that really meant something, and ended up as this. To make this into a digital source of information for everybody here, I think is a wonderful thing. I just see this as a very high tribute. Real quick, I just want to say my personal thanks to John Bird, Tom Fehring for his Wisconsin Historical Society connections in help, the Wisconsin Energy Corporation, the Garden Club, and 2 people, I think, that need mentioning Mary McIntyre and Linda Pierschalla, employees and friends here. I think old-time Mimi buddies who helped her for years and years of putting this stuff together. And I would say the first, I don't know for sure, the first 10, 11 years was voluntary. It was a Mimi Bird project out there on her own. Then she joined the library and with all the assistants here too, to put this all together, I think it's a wonderful tribute. And in closing, I just want to mention that Mimi was a give back kind of person. This is a real give back. This is real.